Don't let me hear you say life's taking you nowhere. Angel, come up, baby. Look at that sky, life's begun. Nights are warm and the days are young. Come up, baby. There's my baby lost, that's all. Once I'm begging you, save a little soul.
Golden Years. David Bowie, Golden Years. I don't know if you could hear it when I said that. Love that music, though. Love that song. He's a pretty talented guy. No question about that. So we're talking about the power of desire. I have this show. So it's going to be very short is my intention. But I want to talk about some things. There's some big stuff going on in my world right now, and it's more on the professional side, less on the specific, but that's kind of groovy right now, too. So end of next week, mid next week, I'll have some really bitchin' stuff to share. And this concept is what's going on. And to me, this is the Law of Attraction Simplified. And truly, this is what I do. I actually don't. There's a lot of techniques. Like I meditate every day. I do that more just of a silencing of the mind, right? But I don't do any of the imaginal work. I don't try to imagine these scenes. I don't do any of that. This is what I do. This is what I do. And I've said before, intention is power. Intention is what matters. And people are selling books. I don't know if you've noticed, there's bunches of people out there that are selling books. And books are groovy and wonderful, and you pass along a lot of things, much like, I don't know, I guess I'm selling a YouTube video, right? I'm trying to get you to watch. Maybe, hopefully, you like watching. But I try to do it also as let's interact. Like, I enjoy, being part of this experience with everybody, and hopefully it helps make a difference. Like, this is something I've always enjoyed talking about in smaller groups. Why not be able to do it on a you and I basis, and that generally can work out to a large group. But the power of desire in my life, the way it's always played out for me, is I have decided that this is going to happen. So, for example, in the case of money, because this is kind of a way that I have definitely improved my situation in life, is by taking where I'm at now and how I am right now, there's basically being able to, I will be making this much more. That is going to happen. And from that, it's really all I'm like, that I will do. It's more of a focus on getting to that level. Now, yes, I think about the things because I understand just the big picture of how reality works. I then go into how would my life be if I was making more money, right? Something along those lines. And right now, one simple example, and what I looked at, and it's an easy next step, but it's definitely indicates that certain things have happened. And that is repainting my house. I've lived here a long time. This place needs a paint job badly. And I want to do the floors. Something that needs to happen as well. So I'm going to be manifesting that. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And this has been tied to I'm going to be making more money. It's just I'm going to be. That's what I say. I am going to be. There's power in the I am. So again, making use of what I know to be true. But at the same time, it's just that simple. I'm going to be doing this. And I believe it and I know it because everything I've ever set my mind to in my life since I was young, I've accomplished. If I truly, there's a couple things I've failed. There is a here and there's small percentages of stuff. Of course, everyone. My gosh. Like no one's perfect. That'd be ridiculous. So I've had my awesome, wonderful fair share of failures. But all the successes have pretty much had things in common. It's I'm going to do this, period. I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't know where, but I'm going to, and then things start to happen. It's always been like that. Doors start to open, people come out of nowhere, and they're like, huh. And it just has always made me realize that universe, life, all this stuff, we're all interconnected. There's this really cool thing. And then I started getting into, well, why? And that's what got me studying and how I basically fell into law of attraction years later. But it is all about the desires. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I ended up doing. And for me, it's always been a challenge to imagine too much terribly further than where I'm currently at. So if something is impossibly far away from me, I don't usually think about it that way. I don't think about the impossible thing. I think about let's get an increment step. What's closer? What's a solid thing? Like say I want to be a millionaire, just to use the money thing as another example, because love's different and we'll get into that. But the difference of, $1 million versus like where maybe I'm making 100,000, right? Or whatever, 200,000, whatever. And I want to make $1 million. That's like 5 times more. That's a lot more money. So what I do is I think about, okay, well, here's how I am now. Here's what would be different. I probably would pick up an additional property over here. That'd be a great investment. Got a nice winter home. Maybe I could get up there and just work, get away from the crowds, all the people, right? It's kind of beautiful. Might be a nice place to be during Christmas, right? Whatever. Start planning out, and I could have possibly maybe a cabin over here because I've always wanted one of those. So I just think it'd be cool. Like, I don't know, whatever. Just as 2 stupid examples, but both of those things are good investments, not really bad, and are all places that you could take advantage of, which means you're going to furnish. That implies there's an extra level of wealth, and to be able to do that kind of stuff, you'd be making, 500,000, 300, 400, 500,000, right? So I'm at 200. I'm trying to imagine what it would be like if I was making $500,000. Because I'm trying to get to $1 million. Like, I don't even know what it would be like to have $1 million. Why? I can't imagine it. So in some cases, many of us are like, I don't know what it would be like to be with someone, maybe physically, but it's like, well, maybe I know I can imagine what it would be like to be on a first date. And again, I know I've said before, it's good to think big. So it depends where you're at in your manifestation. If you're just trying to manifest love, that's a totally different thing. If you've got a specific person in mind, yeah, go big, please. And imagine that very, very deliciously. But that will just keep focusing on that. I am going to do that. This is going to happen. I am doing this. There's no question of that. There may be questions of how, but it will happen. That's what I tell myself. It happens, and then it does. Like it most of the time, almost always, most of the time. Whatever I focus on, for some reason, it happens. And it's just this. I don't think about it all the time. I don't do all this stuff. And it's kind of funny. Like, I got this golf analogy. I'm sure hardly anyone has golfed. Maybe a lot of you have. And that's awesome. I hope you have. And I'm not trying to mean that in any sort of inappropriate way. It's just, I don't know how popular golf is in the law of attraction circles. But long story short, like, golf is one of these things where there's a lot of, like, you even have to hold the club right. Like, you got to lace your fingers right on it, and you got to be relaxed, and you got feet heavy, but you got to pivot the one leg, and you got to make sure you're sort of, your balance, your weight is focused on it. And then when you swing the club back, you bring it back in a perfect plane, right? And then you bring it down, and right when you're hitting the ball, you kind of transition your weight and your shoulders, right? And you kind of move through the ball. And you've got to follow through, and you've got to come up with the club. And when you do that, you hit an amazing golf shot. If you think about any of those things, when you step up to the tee at all, you jack the shot almost always. If you're thinking about what I got to do, I jack it up. I can't hit the golf ball if I think about any of the mechanics other than I just bring the club back right. For me, that's just like the big one. Like, just bring the club back straight in a plane. You're good. Right? Then from there, it's just go. But if I think about it at all, if I think about the mechanics while I'm doing the swing, I will hit the ball poorly. The point is, when you're trying to manifest something, when you're trying to micromanage, when you're trying to do all the little things, when you're trying to worry about it, when you're trying to, like, is this going to happen? When there's all this questioning about the process, or there's all of this little micro things where I got to do this thing, and then I got to do this thing, and then I got to, no, really, you just got to go, I'm going to have this, and then do whatever, like, universe, I'm doing this, I don't know what I need to do, so show me, like, bring that information to me, and then let's do this, because this is ridiculous. This is what I want to do. This is what I would enjoy doing. This is what needs to happen. And again, if the jump is too high, then kick up a good notch. For when it comes to money, kick it up a certain level, a percentage over where you're at, 50%, 25%, whatever you can kind of imagine how you'd be living different. Or in the sense of love, if it's a level better than what you've currently got. We got a lot of people that all of a sudden they sort of text and that's not good enough. There's some people that are kind of together and somehow that's not good enough. Like, everyone's in their varying stages of where they are in their relationship quest. And so it depends on where you're at, on what you need to do to kick it up another notch. So maybe you're texting all the time. Maybe it's kind of like more like my thing, right? We text often, right? Like, there's a way for me to kick that up a notch, which, involves spending a little bit more time in person, seeing every once in a while. I know it's tough, and we can work it out, and whatever. Like, that would be the step up for me in that focus, right? And it makes it easier. It makes it less like, it's impossible. There's no way. There's too many things. There's too many things in the way right now. Like, it just takes all that stuff out of the way and makes it something where I can do this next step for sure. Yes. And then you get to that next step and you're like, yeah, I can do the next step. So you increment your way, because it is very hard sometimes to see the finish line. Sometimes you can. If you can, that's awesome. Go to the finish line. Keep going. Just keep trekking along on your, on your marathon, right? Long ways, 26, whatever, 28. I don't know. I don't run unless someone's chasing me and I don't want them to catch me. That's pretty much when I run. But long story, yes, boom, keep going. And the more you think about all these little things, like the golf swing, the more opportunities there are. And it's just whatever reason it is. Why, when we focus on all this minutia, and yes, I love the fact that we talk about all these different things. So, otherwise you just stop listening to me altogether. Be like, well, no, Dan, I watched this one show and he pretty much told me, I don't need any of this stuff. And technically you don't. You don't. But I hope to, talk about good things, maybe help give you some other perspectives, ideas. So please come back. And please subscribe if you haven't already. I always like that. Makes a big difference. And I just want to say, I got one amazing sign. This is pretty cool because this is on the same thing. This has to do with the way things are going. And a couple steps had been made in a direction that I'm like, all right, this is what's going to happen. I'm doing this. I'm definitely going through the motions anyway. And I got a call at work, and it was from a customer that was from when I lived out in Tennessee. And they knew a specific person that signifies something very symbolic to me. And they knew that person. When we got talking and everything, they mentioned a place. I'm like, oh my God, I used to work there. And then they were like, yeah. And I'm like, and this was another place I worked at. And here, this is the owner's name. And they're like, yeah, no, I know him. I'm very good friends with him. And I was like, and so it's just funny how the world works. When you put your mind towards something, you'll get your help. Help comes. You might have to act. You might have to actually do something. You might have to actually look at something and go, I'm going to have to assume this fruit's ripe, because it's right in front of me right now, and I know that I need to take advantage of anything that presents itself. Anything that presents itself. That's what I do. That is what I do. It's simple. People make it very complex, and that's cool. We can talk about all these little different characteristics, and I like it because I can look at it and kind of drill into it and go like, well, this is kind of why it's working like that. This is the portion of the, it's like when you look at like the human heart, right? And you're like, oh, and it's got the, the lub dubs, right? And it's got the different, all the stuff going on with it. I'm going to sound like an idiot if I try to name off stuff because I'm not like that. But, it's beautiful. But when you go out a little bit, it's not the person. It's just the heart, right? So again, it's when we look at aspects of the big thing, like we get lost in the small little part. Like the heart's amazing, but it's not the whole person. Like without the brain, the person dies. Without the blood vessels, they die. Without muscles, they can't walk. Like the whole package really serves an awesome purpose. And the heart is definitely the motor that drives it all. But still, a motor without a car is pointless, and a car without a motor is pointless. They work really well together, though, oddly. I know, right? Who thought that one up? That's crazy. That's crazy. So, going out with a great song by Queen and David Bowie, mind you. Doubling up a little bit on Bowie here. Under Pressure. And, of course, you're hearing it right here on Dan Radio Style.